Hi everybody, this is Cateroll Hunter, and I went to my bank today and I asked if they had anything interesting or different. And often I ask that and they don't, but today they certainly did. I'm excited to show you what I got. Hey folks, this is James and you're watching my channel Cateroll Hunter. As you know, when I go to my bank, I always ask for a few things. Do you have any pennies? Do you have any old paper money? Do you have anything interesting like 50-cent pieces, old dollar coins, things like that? Usually the answer is no, and I'm in there often enough, but sometimes the answer is yes. This time I went to the bank and they said, oh, somebody just dropped off some silver dollars, and we've got some paper money here if you're interested. I was very interested. She asked how much I wanted, and I said, well, I'll take everything. And then she said, are you sure you'll take it all? I said, absolutely. And she started to fill up this bag with silver dollars. Now, I didn't look in. I didn't see what it was. I only paid face value. I was listening as she was filling up the bag, and I didn't hear anything that sounded like silver. So I think what we're going to have are nickel dollars and nickel 50-cent pieces. But this is pretty hefty, so let's get in and take a look what we got. So I got a bunch of stuff. She just threw this in with what I got, so I don't actually know what the face value is or what is actually in here, but you can see it is a lot of stuff. Oh my goodness. And as I'm looking at first glance, it looks like a bunch of nickel dollars and some 50-cent pieces, some commemoratives in there I can see. I don't see anything that looks like silver. They'd be a bit bigger than the ones we can see here. But we got some from the 70s, some from the 80s. So we'll take a look. I'm not sure if this is all one person who brought in their collection, but I think what I'll do is sort through them and we'll see what years we got and if we possibly got anything that's a little older. Well, we got some stacks of dollars, but as I suspected, there was no silver in here. These are all 100% nickel. But we got a good little variety of years, and you can see we got a whole bunch of it too. We got right at the very beginning a 1974. That's commemorating 100 years of Winnipeg, Manitoba. There's a variety we can look for, actually a few varieties we can look for here. We got a 75. We got 4 1976s, we got 6 77s, and there are some varieties in the 75, 76, 77 we'll look at too. We got 178, we got a whole stack of 79s, 13 of them. And then this 1982 Confederation commemorative, we got that one, we got 17 of them. 23 of this 1984 Jacques Cartier, and we got one lone 1986 down here. And then we got 4 50-cent pieces, a 69, a couple 85s, and then this 2002, which has a bit of a different throwback obverse design. So we'll start with the 84 and we'll take a look, the 74, and see if we got any of the varieties here. So we'll throw this under the scope in a second. This is celebrating the 100th anniversary of Winnipeg, Manitoba. And you can see in the 2 zeros here, one is an image of Main Street 100 years ago, or 100 years ago from 1974. And then the second one is that same view in 1974, 100 years later with skyscrapers. But let's take a peek because there are a few things we want to look for here on this first zero. So what we're looking for on this one is a doubling error that occurs on the yoke of this cow or oxen that is pulling the cart. And I don't see it here, but what we would see, there's a double yoke where we would see this yoke here is actually sticking up, or another impression of it here. There's another one that is a little further ahead over here. And there's another variety where that other yoke is over by the cow's head. So we don't have it. So this is the normal version or the common variety, but that's one you'll want to check for if you get your hands on some of these old nickel dollars. Here's the 75 under the scope. And what we're looking for is the jewels in the crown, and the regular circulation strike had the jewels here attached. Basically, they're touching parts of the crown here. The proof-like variety, these 2 jewels at the front of the crown appear to be detached. They don't seem to be touching the rest of the crown. So this is the regular circulation strike with the attached jewels. Here is the 76. We're looking for much the same thing here. We have a few to look at, actually 4 of them. Same thing, they actually had an attached jewel and a detached jewel, and they were both in the circulation strikes. This one here is the more common detached jewels. So we'll look at the other ones to see if there are any that are attached. They carry a premium for sure. Well, the next two are pretty much the same, but this one's a little bit different. This is the last one here, and if you look at this bead here, you'll see that this is all one continuous piece, and it's touching here. This is the harder to find or attached version of the 1976. That's really cool. So we got both varieties here. Now this one is a bit more circulated. You can see there's a lot of chatter on the fields and that. So it's not going to be really worth much of anything beyond face value, if anything at all. But it's cool that we found both varieties in just 4 coins. All right, here's the 1977. This is that very familiar Voyager design that was on the silver dollars right from 1935. And it's an iconic design in Canadian coinage. It features a fur trader in this canoe with an Aboriginal person, and they are canoeing past a little island with some packages in the canoe. There are a couple of things we want to look for on here. It's the water lines at the front. There are some that are long and some that are short. And then similar to the other coins we just looked at, we want to look to see if the jewels are attached or detached. So I've got one under the scope here already, 1977, and these are already lower minted. These are just about 1.3 million, and so there weren't a lot of these, and they didn't circulate much. But as we look at this one under the scope here, we can see that this is definitely the short water line. If I swap it in for another 1977, you'll see that the water lines on this one are quite a bit longer, and they extend right to the bow of the canoe. So I'll put back the other one here for just a second so we can take a look. And you can see that they don't touch the canoe there. So that's interesting. So the one we're really looking for is the short water line with the attached jewels. So we'll flip this guy over and we'll see that we have, in this case, very definitely the attached jewels. So that one, it's actually in pretty nice condition, is our harder to come by 1977 short waterline attached jewels. We'll take a look at the other ones and see if we got any more like this or if we got other varieties. All right, here's that other one. Definitely long water lines. They're touching the bow. When we flip it over, we can see that the jewels are detached. So that is one other variety. We'll just keep going through here. We've got long water lines. Also detached jewels. Short water line, are they going to be attached or detached? These ones are also attached. Very cool. And it's also in really nice condition, nice and shiny. Little bit of scuffing. The next one here is long water lines, detached. And then the last one, long water lines, and this one is also detached. Very cool. We got 2 of the varieties of the 3 we could find. Here's the 1982. This is commemorating 2 things, Confederation in 1867 and signing the Constitution in 1982. And there are varieties we could look for on here. I've already checked. There is a rotated die. Basically, this is in metal orientation, right? So if this is a metal hanging down, it is oriented the same way. The other variety that we could find that is harder to find, would be very valuable, is coin orientation, so it would flip like an American coin and be right side up. I've already checked them all, and we don't have that for any of these. There's one other version. There is a thin planchet, and this is not the thin planchet. This is the regular thickness. So we don't have any of those varieties. And this is also really highly minted, which is why we have so many. They were popular with collectors at the time, but this is minted over 11.8 million. And of course, we got 23 of these 1984 Jacques Cartier. This is the 450 years anniversary of Jacques Cartier arriving in what is now Canada. There are no varieties to speak of for this one. And it's got that same obverse design as the 1982 as well. But we got a whole whack of these. These were also popular with collectors, but they're also fairly highly minted. Over 6 million of this one here. And last up in our silver dollars, and I use the term silver lightly because they were still referred to as silver dollars even when their composition changed to nickel. That's just what we had called them for so long. Is one sold 1986 with some gunk on it, but happy to add that to my collection anyhow. And in our 50-cent pieces, we got a really nice looking 1969. This is not really low mintage. None of these ones are. A couple of 85s here. It was the year after this that the mintages went below $1 million for every year. So if we'd gotten 86, that would be a far harder to get one than the 85 for sure. And then we got that really cool looking 2002, and this is one of the highest minted. This is over 14 million minted, but a very cool obverse design for the Queen's Golden Jubilee. Before we move on to the paper money, I'm just going to bust in as I'm editing this video. Since the time I picked up those coins, the bank has called me again to say they have more for me to pick up. And so this is what I just got again. So I'm just going to add this here. We got some other ones, 68, 70, some really beautiful 72s, and some gorgeous looking 73s there. 76, 79, 82, 84, and some 50-cent pieces. There's a 70, a 73, a 74, a 77, an 82, and another one of those 2002s. So that's all great. Anytime they offer to me, I will take it. But the bank called me today and said, hey, we've got some more silver dollars. Do you want them? So I went in, and this is what they had for me. Now, normally, as you've seen, what they've got are nickel dollars. There's a 69 and 3 1973s. But check out what else they had. This is a 1960, 80% silver Canadian $1 coin with the laureate portrait. A 1961, and you'll hear that sound of silver. Another laureate portrait. A 1963, again, a laureate portrait, 80% silver. And I flipped up this 1965 because this is a variety. There are 4 different varieties you can get in the 1965, maybe even 5. And this happens to be one I didn't have. This is the 1965 large bead pointed 5. We'll just take a quick peek at this one. So here it is under the scope, and the pointed 5 is right here. You'll see that 5 is pointed. There's also a blunt 5 where this kind of comes to a straight edge. And then the large beads, you can see the beads above the legend here on the obverse. You can see they're very close together, so they're quite large. The smaller bead variety, there's a lot more space between them, but this is definitely a variety I didn't have. And so I flipped it up to put it in my binder. But what I got was silver dollars at face value from the bank. And they called me to come and pick them up, and that is fantastic. I've got the best tellers at the branches that I go to. They are amazing. So a little shout out to the tellers at my local bank. But you can't ever complain about getting real silver at face value. And that's why I'll always take these ones, because you just never know. They might be in really fantastic shape, like these guys here, these 72s and 73s. Those are really incredible. And you just never know what else you might get, and that is incredible. So we'll go back to the video I was editing at the time that I picked up these fantastic finds. Now, this is pretty interesting too. The other thing I got was this envelope of paper money, and you can see this top one is in pretty rough shape. But I want to say this, if you are asking your bank for paper money and they have some, just take it. Buy it from them. You're only going to pay face value. You just never know what you're going to get. If I had looked at this one and said, you know what, it doesn't look like anything you've got is going to look very good, I might have turned it down. This top bill isn't going to be worth anything, but take a look at this here. There are a couple of uncirculated and a couple of older bills. So now what's a little bit fortunate, a little bit unfortunate. Now this one's got a little bit of crinkling on the corner, but when I flip them over, look at those serial numbers, 184, 186. They're not consecutive. There's one in the middle that's missing. I don't have it, unfortunately. If we'd had 2 consecutive really crisp looking bills, that would have been pretty good. There's a little bit of a premium for consecutive numbers for some collectors, but I got 2 really good ones and some older bills. And I think the best find in here was this 1954. I just got a couple of these recently. It's got some staining on it. It's definitely circulated, but this is an awesome find. I'm going to look in my Charlton guide to see if any of these that I have are harder to come by serial numbers or signature combinations. Now, I didn't even actually notice it when I was pulling them out. There were actually two 1954 bills here. There's an N over Z and a K over Y, and they're both very, very common, so nothing too special. But what's interesting about them is that this top one was printed by the British American Banknote Company, and the bottom one was printed by the Canadian Banknote Company. So that's one of the main differences, but they both have Beatty and Razminski signature combinations. This one on the top is a nicer version. The color is better and it's in better shape altogether. This one's a little bit rougher. And taking a look at the 1973 and 1974 bills, all of these are very common serial number combinations. And obviously, in the condition that these are in, they're not worth any more than face, particularly with this one that has a corner ripped off. So nothing too spectacular there. But again, you don't want to just say no. You got to say yes. You never know what's going to be in there. And there might just be something that is either rare. There are replacement notes, there are asterisk notes, there are ones that end with an X that are also later series replacement notes. You just don't know, and you're probably not going to get a chance at the bank to look through and look at all the serial numbers. That is a little bit tougher, so just take them. You can always take them back and cash them in, and if they're demonetized older bills, they're going to be worth more than face value anyway. Last but not least, in the Birds of Canada series, we got 3 notes here. The top 2 are in really nice condition. I'm going to hold on to those for sure. The bottom one, not so much. And they're also very common, so there's nothing significant about these serial numbers. These are Thiessen and Crow signatures. But again, this top 2 are in pretty nice condition compared to what you might expect to see, like this guy. Well, I always get pretty excited when I go to the bank and ask them if they have anything different or interesting, and they say yes. You just never know what you're going to get. We got some old paper money that was really cool to look at, and we got a whole whack of dollar and 50-cent coins and found some varieties, which is really cool. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you'll be alerted when I've got new videos coming out. I have videos coming out all the time. We often do coin roll hunting, but sometimes we're looking at silver, we're looking at collections, we're looking at old stuff like this that we can get from the bank. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again next time.